Hello, everyone. And I will ask you now to tell me whether you can see me, whether you can see the screen, and whether you can hear everything well. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. And today we're talking about creative writing and writing as it is. Yeah, my first question would be to you, name 3 differences between spoken and written language. I will ask you to type that in the chat. Spelling, yes, exactly. Spelling matters. The language, grammar, vocabulary, yeah. It's more formal, right? You are. The time, very important. More time to produce writing, that's true. Structure, very important. Punctuation, right. More deep thinking. Style, okay. Context, thank you. Wow, thanks a lot. Fluency, I guess that's in the spoken language, right? Takes more time and thoughts. Okay, let's stop a little bit here, and I will tell you more about how the Cambridge course in language learning looks at this idea. So, difference 1 would be the permanence. When we write something, it stays there and it's not changeable. And for example, we can see the written text of an instruction, how to work with the cassette recorder. Sorry for that, but well, we all remember those. So we have proper instructions, we have references, we have less text actually, in contrast to how we would be talking about it. Yeah, how to use the recorder. And in this case, we have much more text. It's just spoken, and yes, it takes kind of less time to produce the text, but there is a little difference in all this production and reception matter. Still, permanence is difference number 1. Written text is permanent in contrast to the spoken text. Difference number 2 would be explicitness. For example, if we have a diagram, we would be describing it explicitly and telling the diagram, the portion of the diagram which is pink with the number 37 tells us about this and that. But when we are speaking about it and we have the visualization, we can just point at it and show it, and we don't need to explicitly explain what we mean to say. So explicitness is more refers more to the written language. Density. When we are writing, the text is more dense. We do not need all the fillers, all the linkers, all the verbal, non-verbal things, and it's more informative than the spoken text. And detachment. When we are writing, we are not communicating directly to those who are going to receive the text. We are writing alone, detached from the communication circle, and we have time to think, to edit, to rewrite. And it means that, yeah, this is deeper and more um, complicated thinking process, but at the same time, it's detached from from the communication process as it is, immersive communication process. There are more differences. There are actually 9 of them. So again, about the organization of the text, and someone was mentioning structure, slowness of production, and at the same time, better speed of reception. So when we produce the written text, we take time to do it, much more time than we just speak to each other. But when we read, we spend less time to understand the thought, right? Because when we are talking to each other, or when we are listening to to someone reading the text, we understand, we catch the thought much worse than we are reading it alone. Standard language, because in spoken language we can use slang, we can use paraphrasing all the time, and we can explain things with our gestures, but for the written text we use standard language. At the same time, we do not have so much of a presence of the author, and this refers more to the detachment thing. Still, it as a through line, it's a very important point. We are communicating when we are reading the written text. We're communicating to the text and to the thought, rather than to an author and a person who created this text. So it's very much not collaborative in terms of communication. A learned skill means that writing is less intuitive than speaking, because we learn our first language and we learn our first spoken language intuitively, and we do not learn some specific things before we go to school, and we intuitively start speaking as we do. But writing is always a learned skill. We'll learn how to write, how to structure the text. Of course, there are these flows of consciousness and so on, automatic writing and all this surrealistic style, but still, first we learn it as a skill, as well as drawing and so on. We take more time to become skillful in it. Sheer amount and importance. So when we are writing the text, we think about how much is written, and again, we use deeper thinking processes to put it down. When it comes to writing activities, there are 3 main categories of writing activities. Let's have a look at these tasks. So, which one is creative writing? Right, it's very interesting, but mainly creative writing. there are tasks that include creativity. Oh, someone wrote E. Thank you. Someone wrote C. Thank you. Someone wrote D. Most of us wrote D. Right. But when we look at all these tasks, we have the sentence, we just rewrite the sentences, but put them in the correct order. This is not writing as a product, right? And writing as a product, yeah, an expert is someone who we continue the thought, we finish the product. It includes creativity because we need to think, to analyze ideas and to combine ideas, and so on. But it includes creativity, but it's not creative writing. In the other task, the following story is written in the present tense. Rewrite it. This is writing as a means for grammar. It's grammar practice. It involves writing. It doesn't involve creativity. It involves the knowledge of grammar. We have come to an exciting point in the story. Write down what you think will happen next and why. This is complete creativity task. So that's mainly the only skill we are using here is creativity. And yes, this is creative writing because we have the starting, the basis of writing, and then we put down our ideas. But E is also creative writing, but in a more structured way. And the flow of the consciousness and making up things, improvising, doesn't always mean creativity. Creativity is the ability to put together ideas, to make them understandable, and very often creativity and critical thinking come together. So we have a survey, and then we have to criticize what we've learned through the survey. And criticize is not only telling off and finding drawbacks. Criticizing is about analysis and then about creating your ideas about how to improve the situation. Yeah, a survey on a child education in our country. So we have the survey, we look through a lot of data, then we get critical about some of the points, about how we were brought up, but in the end we usually need to use our creativity and to put down the ideas of how it should have been done, and so we can improve in future. So that's the higher level of creativity. So we can see that B, D and E are those tasks that involve creativity, but D and E are creative writing tasks. All these writing activities are divided into 3 categories, as I was saying: writing as a means, writing as an end, and writing as both and means. And if we look at these tasks, writing as a means is the task A. We write for the sake of writing. We write for the sake of rewriting and putting things in order. So we just write as a skill of moving your pen or pencil on the paper, using this alphabet, using this spelling, understanding what you're writing, and so on. Writing as it is, as a process. But writing as an end is writing some final product. We have this one in D. We write the exciting point. We write the story And we have the product. As a product, we have a narration about our prediction on what is going to happen. But writing as both and means, this is about the last task, E, where we need to write down a structured essay. So we pay attention to both form and we pay attention to the content of what we're writing, and so on. So creative writing is writing as both and means, because creative writing also has a very specific structure, depending on what particular thing we're writing. Is it an essay? Is it a annotation, report, and so on. So yeah, more explanation if you are going to make a screenshot of that. Writing as a means. Writing is widely used within foreign language courses as a convenient means for engaging with aspects of language other than the writing itself. For example, learners note down new vocabulary, copy out grammar rules, write out answers to reading or listening comprehension questions, do written tests, and so on. So the idea here is to write for the sake of writing. And then we have writing as an end. Here we refer to narrating a story, writing a letter, writing an essay, and so on. And writing as both means and end, combines purposeful and original writing with the learning or practice of some other skill or content. For example, a written response to the reading of a controversial newspaper article combines writing with reading. The writing of anecdotes to illustrate the meaning of idioms combines writing with vocabulary practice. In creative writing for English language, we combine writing with most probably reading, using new vocabulary, using new grammar, or using new structures. And for creative writing, the most interesting part would be for me personally to work with students writing stories. And stories are always present, except for critical reviews, of course, but still stories are present even in scientific papers, in some humanities and so on. When we're describing the experiments, we're still writing stories about how the experiments were held, and we need to know the structure of stories very well. By saying know the structure, I mean that we need to feel how this structure works. And for this case, it's not only enough to tell students, here is the beginning, the middle part, and the ending. They need to have this bodily experience of knowing the structure of how different actions begin and how things happen and how events come to an end and so on. So, and we use stories not only for just writing or for papers. Yeah, students will use this kind of writing when they further go into their profession, for filmmaking, for commercials, for marketing, public speaking, presentations. If they work in media, and wherever they need to use public speaking, they will need to understand how to write stories. When we're writing stories, we deal with very different life competencies, such as in creative thinking and critical thinking, working with the ideas, understanding, analyzing, synthesizing them, solving problems and making decisions, taking control of our own learning in learning to learn competency. We communicate a lot. We think about what register to use, how to manage the tasks if this is collaborative writing task, and how to be responsible for our own writing when someone is going to read it, for example, and so on. So, for example, we have a task, writing a story. Yeah. First, before we go to writing a story, we definitely need to have some example and to analyze how the story becomes a story. In this task, we ask students what makes a story interesting, for them to think about it. What personally for them makes a story interesting. And we can put down all those ideas. I'm not sure I know exactly what teenagers, what kind of stories teenagers have these days, but they definitely watch some cartoons yeah. When I was a teenager, there was Spider-Man, one of the most popular ones, of course, Harry Potter, or these cartoons about dragons. And recently, I've seen a wonderful cartoon, Wild Robot, which is really amazing. And you can ask students if all of them saw some cartoon, or you can have a task like watch this and we will talk about it later. What makes it interesting? And then finally we come to the moment that there are 4 main things for a good plot of a story. And I will show you the example on the story that we all know about this round piece of bread, kolobok. So there is exposition, there is development, there is climax into the story, and there is resolution of the story. In the exposition, we have grandfather and grandmother who have no children, and they make up their own piece of bread that comes alive. And then this piece of bread starts the journey. And there is the development with the rabbit, with the wolf, with the bear. All this is development. And the meeting with the fox is also a part of development of the story, but there is the critical point that changes everything. What do you think it is? That's for you to type in the chat. What is the climax in this story of Kolobok? Not just a fox. Which particular event is the climax? So we see here meeting with fox ate Kolobok, but this is how the story ends. This is already the resolution. Fox helps Kolobok. Sitting on the tongue. Yes, this is the particular event of sitting on the nose and then finally on the tongue. So all these events from the start of the journey, when Kolobok jumps out of the window and changes his life, all this time, the story develops up to the moment with the Kolobok taking a decision. When we think, no, don't do this, but he does it, and we already understand, oh my God, it's not going to end well. But we still have a hope. So this is the critical point of the story when this life-changing event happens. And then in the end, there is a resolution. The fox is the fox ate Colobok. This is the resolution of the story. A terrible, tragic story, actually. One of the biggest tragedies, if you think about it. It's a terrible story. In any case, we have four main points of the story, even though point 2, development, has a lot of lines, like 1, 2, 3, and then fox is the fourth. It's still all one stage of the story. To make a good story, we need to understand how they work very well. And for that, we can even have a practical task, which I do with my students all the time, because I'm very much into performative practices, which is not only about theater, it's about involving the body into your learning process, because I believe, and I'm now writing my PhD paper on that, I believe that body is the biggest part of learning. And if we look at our body, head is one of the smallest parts of our of the space we take in the room. It sounds funny, but we have proprioception as the process when brain also analyzes where the body is, what it does, how it feels, and so on. And it's really important to put all the ideas we have in our thoughts into the body and to see how they work, as well as the language. We put the language not just as a concept in our head where we store our memories about words and grammar and so on. We need to understand grammar with our body. We need to learn the words with our body to understand how the word makes us feel when we say it. Yeah, for example, one of my favorite words for some reason is society. I have some feelings about that. Yeah, so I will not stop on that too much, but how to make it work with the story is making it more visual and more bodily experienced. So there should be some visual storytelling, as I just showed you, with 4 particular stages. They can talk about why Instagram stories or all those TikTok stories, if they're called so, I don't know, why some of them are interesting and some of them are not, and why we're watching them, and how this visualization makes us feel in filmmaking and so on. But when we want to put it into the body, we can ask students to practice. I call it the 4 shots exercise. So what I would do, I would ask students to stand up and actually show what they're doing. One thing at a time is the finished action. So first, I took an apple. So I take it. This is 1. Then I beat a piece of an apple. Then I broke my tooth. And then what could be the end of the story? You can write down some action. Crying could be. Woke up. Wow, this is great. Other ideas? Put it under the pillow. Go to the dentist. It's quite a long action. Here should be one little action that we can show. Catch a fairy. Took a selfie. That's a good one. Yeah, some very simple, simple action should be there. Love is the reaction, not action. So very important here to like took a selfie is the best for a comedy. Drink some water. So pay attention to what is actual action, not emotion, not a whole new event, and not just a word, but specific action. So we have go to the dentist, put it under the pillow, waking up. These are like specific actions. And then students do not have to use any words while they are doing that. And we have student A, student B. Student A starts, student B continues, student A continues to the climax, and student B finds the resolution of the story. So they build this story together, so it becomes one story. So they put it into the body, how they can show that stories work. So it's not just a set of different actions, but they tell us something. Yeah. For example, if I took an apple, I bit, I broke my tooth, and then I'm taking a selfie. This is a story about how you can stay positive about life and so on. This is how you can make the story get into the bodily experience. Then we come back to the story that we have to write, because we are not just having fun here, we are writing a story. We read the story. The same sunglasses. So here is a simple story, and the task would be, no, sorry. The task would be to read it for now, for you to read it. Okay, that's it. Now we have the tasks in the book. How many people had the same sunglasses? Yeah, we ask students to answer that. It's 4 people, that's okay. Now, what, what is the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story here? You can just put these 3 in order. Three, two, one. Okay, thank you very much. Then we have, yeah, 3, 2, 1. And then we have some grammar work with the text, and we needed to understand how the narrative stories are working for our students. So we have some grammar practice, and we still have the readings. We find 3 verbs in the past continuous, in the just past, and 3 adverbs which say when the thing happened, like first, next, and so on. Since we don't have much time to work on that, we omit the grammar part, but then we finally prepare to write our own story using the narrative tenses, and we see at the beginning of a story, you can introduce the characters, say what they were doing, and describe the place or the weather. In the middle, describe all the events. as with color book. We describe all the events. And for example, if we take the apple story, I took an apple, then I take a bite, I looked at the apple, I enjoyed it, then I thought it's not very tasty, and then when I finish the apple, I can break my tooth, which is the climax of the story. And between all the bites of an apple, something else can be happening all around me. Like my friend called me and I cannot finish eating the apple, and so on. And then at the end of the story, you describe the final event. Often the final event solves a problem, or as we have with the color book, makes the story tragic because it surprises in some way. And only then we have the reflection about the feeling, how we felt, who was crying, who was laughing, and so on. So good stories are very universal. They have very clear structure and purpose. And for our students, it is important as well to understand why they want to tell this story. What is so important in this story that it should be out? What's the belief burning within you when you are writing this story? And what is the greater purpose of the story? Maybe it can teach something and so on. There should be characters, it should be emotional, there should be a twist, like with Kolobok, a twist would be jumping on the nose and then jumping on the tongue of a fox. This is something new that didn't happen with the other characters. And of course, the resolution. The typical structure of the story would be once upon a time there was, every day this and this happened, one day something new happened, because of that the whole world changes, until finally we all feel this and that. And yeah, in this apple story, it works perfectly. Once upon a time, I took an apple. Every day I was eating an apple and I was happy about it, and so on and so. One day I bit a piece of an apple and broke my tooth. Because of that, I had to go to the dentist, and this is the completely new event. Yeah, this is something you don't do with the body, but you can write it down. And until finally the dentist fixed my teeth. And this is the simplest structure that always works for the stories, and it helps students to have the beginnings of the sentences. Of course, it doesn't have to be like just 5-6 sentences and that's it, but it gives the structure for paragraphs, for example. And writing is also important for exams, and here we might even have the collaborative writing. For example, this is writing from Prepare course book, and the task is to write a story. The story begins with a sentence: I decided to make a gift for my friend. And then students think about all of this, compare their ideas, talk to the partner, think about how they can improve the plan, because writing is not only about writing as a means. If we are writing a product, we need to work on the collaborative tasks around it with the planning, and again, to make it interactive, so it's performative, so students are supported on every step of this writing journey. And then students are asked to write 100 words. And to make it more interesting, we can ask students to imagine that they are preparing a plot of a new TV show with the whole creative team. And we need students to come up with some ideas, discuss with the team, present these ideas, pitch them to the producer of the film. And that's why, that's how they will get this better motivation for writing, because now it's not just writing for the sake of writing, but actually preparing for real life writing. Yeah, the producer it could be the opposite team, and they listen the pitch and they tell, I like this and this, I don't like this and that, maybe you can improve, and so on. And then students come back to their plan and they can continue this story altogether. So yeah. Another one is writing an essay. This is a literature worksheet from the Think second edition level 3, B1 plus. And there is a literature piece which students are reading and they're talking about it. And then in the end, they need to write an essay to communicate the ideas that were in this literature task. And here we have a very specific structure of how the essay works. Paragraph 1, say what the quotation means to you, explain the key words and the paragraph with your initial opinion, then give arguments, then think about the opposite opinion, and then summarize the essay and restate your opinion in the first paragraph. This is actually the beginning of academic writing, which students will meet a lot if they continue learning at the university, especially these days when we have to write a lot in English. Again, you can use the same the same structure of preparation that I will show you later. So this task was taken from Teachers Resource Bank in the Cambridge One platform for Think second edition. And how we approach such tasks, like exam preparation with a 100 words letter, with a story, or with an essay. First of all, we work with the team building. We create teams in which students start working. And in this team, we need to make sure that all students know their roles. Nobody is left out and has something to contribute. Everybody knows everything about the project, but everybody is responsible for their part. Regarding the roles, there might be a timekeeper, someone who is putting and organizing ideas, or someone who leads the checklist, someone who makes research, someone who experiments, someone who presents the project in the end, and so on. So we created the team for our brainstorming process. Then we start the brainstorming process. The rules of brainstorming are almost everywhere the same. This is the time limit. So we tell students, you have 2 minutes to find as many ideas as possible and put them as they are. Put them as they are means without any judgment and without anyone in the team saying no to any idea. We put the ideas as they are in the flow, and then we say, okay, time's up, 2 minutes over. Now structure your ideas and present them. And so for this case, we have ideas that students present to the class, and then someone can have more ideas about what they're going to write later. This is what we call collaborative planning. In the team, students are brainstorming, structuring. Then we have 5 minutes writing. So anything that catches students' attention in the previous task, they can write down. This 5 minutes writing, when students finish, they can put their writing on the walls so everybody can walk around, read and see, aha, this student has this idea, this student has this idea, and I can think about some other idea considering what I've seen, and so on. So they share these ideas, or as you can see In this picture, they give these 5 minutes writing task to each other in a circle and read and maybe add something else. Then we finally get to writing. This is the moment when students are working alone, individually. And first, they have their first draft. After the first draft, students get the feedback from the peers or from the team. It doesn't always have to be the teacher. Then after the feedback, they can edit the text to add some ideas that they heard from the team, for example, or maybe from their own understanding after this feedback. Then they prepare the second draft. On the second draft, they have more feedback. This one should go from the teacher. And then they edit this feedback from the teacher. And then they have the final draft. What is going on each stage? There is no assessment of vocabulary, of grammar, of structure, but there is support with the advice, like make corrections here and here and here, and then hand in another the corrected draft. Then only on the stage of the final draft, we have the assessment. We assess the content, the structure, and the language. And we can have the grammar mistakes and vocabulary mistakes evaluated only on the third stage of the writing, not on the first, not on the second, because we don't mark them. This is in the perfect world, and this is how it actually works at the university, for example, when we hand in the first draft of the paper, the second, and then we finally give the publication to the journal or something. And for that, you can use different tools, so you don't have hundreds of papers. We use Google Documents, and we just communicate here about the content, about the references in the texts, and so on. And yeah, so I'm asking a student to add linkers here because here it's not enough. Another fun activity can be write and freeze activity. One of my favorites. So here students are working in pairs or groups of threes. You give them a large piece of paper and say, write your address, your opening greeting on the top. So we start the letter. Start writing a letter on the topic. Or for example, we had the topic about this particular. Sorry, I will have to come back. Yeah, the topic would be the finest inheritance you can give to a child is to allow it to make its own way completely on its own feet. And then we write this topic and we start the letter on this topic. Then the teacher says freeze. So students put their pens up and they give this piece of paper to the partner. Transfer each paper to the next group so that everyone's working with another piece of paper with a letter on it. Read, correct, improve, and then continue writing. Students work on the letter that they've received, and then they continue that letter. Then you say freeze again, and the whole process repeats. Transfer, read, correct, improve, and continue. And then finally, the letter comes back, makes the whole circle, and comes back to the author. And they can look on the corrections, on the suggestions, on the improvements, and how the letter continued with another author. finish the reading and proofreading the text, and then they actually can have the final text if this text is okay with them. This is a fun activity to practice writing. This is not creative writing. It involves creativity, but it's rather writing as a means, because we're learning how to write and how to understand, and this involves reading as writing by both. As a both means and end. So we read, we write, we practice, and this is a wonderful learning activity rather than writing as a product. You can find more useful resources in the Life Competencies brochure. And if you're interested in the books I was demonstrating, which were Prepare and Think, you can visit our catalog, and you will definitely receive it after the webinar in a week or so in the thank you letter, together with the contact form for the certificates. There are activity cards to boost your students' critical thinking, creativity, and so on. And we have a lot of ELT papers. These are the books I was demonstrating. We also have books for young learners. Think, this is the one with the essay, and it also has a huge variety of tasks in the on the learning management platform Cambridge One, and you can work with this course just on your cell phone, or on your smartphone, or your tablet, or your computer, wherever you are at any time. There are also teaching modules for our courses, teaching with Kidsbox, with Superminds, Prepare and Think. These are modules for teachers that you can work on for free and receive a certificate of completion.
The world of education is changing. We want to help you adapt to the challenges and deliver successful learning experiences. Whether you're teaching English online, in a classroom, or a mixture of the two, Cambridge One will meet your needs now and in the future. With the upgrade to our new digital learning environment, you'll discover easy and flexible access to digital resources across all your devices in one place. Motivating bite-sized mobile content and gamified experiences, plus time-saving tools for marking homework, class creation, and user enrolment. Easily track your students' progress to support their learning and guide your teaching with Cambridge One. Explore your new home for digital learning. Visit cambridge.org/one or speak to your local Cambridge sales representative.